Hey everybody, it's Mystic Juicer, and this is a bit of a different video. No Yomi action to be had at the moment. I just wanted to make a quick video to celebrate a bit of an achievement for the channel, which is reaching 200 subscribers. So pretty exciting to me. Obviously, compared to like the real, like any kind of real YouTube channel, it's like, nothing, but it makes me incredibly happy to see that a collection of videos about this one kind of obscure fighting card game have managed to like amass any kind of subscriber count at all. That's super exciting to me. It's incredibly touching. So basically this whole thing is just a huge thank you to all of you who've subscribed, whether you subscribed like way back when the channel was complete garbage, or more recently where we have gone from 0 production values to like 0.25% of any kind of production values. I honestly, like, honest to goodness, I really appreciate every view, every like, every comment, every subscription. The subscriptions in particular make me incredibly happy. I'm very, very grateful. And I just want to take a moment to say that to all of you. So if you're watching this, I don't know if it's like a high five, just go, yeah, okay. Pretend I edited in like a high five sound. We're good. Okay? Again, 0.25% of production value. I just wanted to take the rest of the video to, as I've got you here, to talk a little bit about some of the things that have happened in the first 2 years, what the channel means to me, that sort of stuff, where it's going, what kind of stuff you could expect in the future. And it's been a pretty amazing 2 years. I started this kind of on a lark as an excuse to play more and watch more Yomi. Because, hey, if you have committed to making content on YouTube, then that means you've got to keep making it. So it means that I go and sign into the Yomi client a little bit more often than I ordinarily would. It makes me a little bit more invested in the community, so I start looking for, when people are playing their matches, who's playing their matches. I get a little bit more of an idea of newer players and when they join and when they get, hopefully the ideal is when I catch them, dummying some established member of the community, and I can get hype and get really excited for them. It's been awesome to do this and to get to watch some amazing games and lose my mind on camera very recently, when people make amazing comebacks. And I think that's basically why I stuck with Yomi, and why I'm going to continue making Yomi content, is because I think it's just an amazing game. The way I put it when I was describing it, or was trying to sell it to other people that are into other board games, right? I came at Yomi from the board game community, I guess, but like through board gaming did I discover Yomi. Whereas I think for a lot of people, or at least a significant portion of play the game, they come from actual real-ass fighting games. Your Street Fighters, your Smashes, whatever. And it's cool to see both kinds of players and their approach to the game, and like that they are equally passionate about how it's played and the characters. Like it's so incredible to me that that Yomi has this appeal to both kinds of players. That it absolutely hits, like, to me, I absolutely approach it like a board game. It makes total sense. You don't have to have any fighting game experience. Besides like watching some of it. I guess, I mean, I've always liked watching fighting games. I'm subbed to crosscounter.tv, right? I watch The Excellent Adventures of Gutex and Mike Ross, of course. And I like watching those games, but I will never have the execution requirements and the patience to teach myself and to learn those those techniques. The actual physical act of playing that game is just a level of difficulty above what I am capable of and willing to invest my time into learning. So Yomi gives me, and people like me, that same opportunity to participate in that kind of game. A one-on-one, very competitive, like large rostered game that has thematic, strong thematic elements, strong design elements of a fighting game. What a fighting game feels like to play if you played it incredibly slowly. I picked up a couple of like fighting games, actual fighting games to try them after playing Yomi for a while, and I'm like, it's so bad. It's so bad. Like, again, I love playing Guilty Gear. I got into fighting games, I guess, because of Guilty Gear XX. And oh god, it's so difficult to, it's like, it doesn't feel natural to me that you have to make decisions quickly in fighting games. Like, wait, no, hold on, you've got to wait until I decide, I've modeled what your psychology is, I've decided what your expected value and payoffs are, and then simultaneously, like, okay, I'm gonna say what I was going to do, and you'll do that, and then if you got it right, then I'll let you hit me in it. Like, that's how I want to play it. I still want to play it turn-based, basically. Pretty bad, pretty hilarious. But yeah, I love that I'm able to play that kind of game in a way by playing Yomi, and that's the real strong appeal to me. I love the 1v1 aspect, all that sorts of good stuff. So back to the point I was making, why Yomi above other card games or other board games. Well, first of all, it's got an online implementation that's really easy and like accessible in order to do commentary, third-person commentary on, which is great, and also first-person commentary. So you can walk somebody through, the interesting decisions that happen in a game, and that's kind of like, there's basically two things that the appeal of Yomi comes down to for me, is that it's exciting from the get-go. Like, in a lot of board games that you play, or that I play, what I found is that there's like the best ones have this arc, and they have interesting decisions. And what I mean by an arc is, like, you're not doing the same thing at the start of the game as you are during the middle, as you are at the end. There's typically like some starting position where you're scrambling to do A, because A is going to set you up for B, which is important in the mid game, so that you can take that advantage that you earned in the mid game and turn it into C in the late game. As a basic example, something like Dominion, or kind of deck builders of that style, where you start off with very basic elements in your possibility in your space, like very little cash that you can buy small stuff with, and you're typically investing in the early game in economy so that you can turn that economy into mid and late game. In the mid game, a combo of some kind that will get you the based on the setup you've done in the early game, you're going to get a really good combo in the mid game, which you're going to then turn into your late game advantage. I know that's not. There are a variety of different strategies you can take in deck builders and Dominion in particular as well. I'm not implying that that's a general arc at all, but Yomi has that as well, right? You start off, you have an undeveloped hand, you have basically a random assortment of resources in your hand, and you are trying to, in a lot of ways, like you can have that same arc. You can play to, build and develop your hand into the mid game so that you have the resources you need to be able to convert any kind of combat win into damage, which you will then translate into closing out the game. Right? And just like Dominion has a variety of different strategies, Yomi also has a variety of different character types that have different ways that they approach that kind of classic expression of the arc. Right? You have rushdown characters like Setsuki and Gwen who don't have to play that early game. Like they play they play aspects of the mid game at all times, basically. Right? They don't need to develop hands in the way that a classic character like Grave, Rook, or something would play it. And then the grapplers have a different game plan as well, that sort of thing. But all that to say is, that arc is very interesting. It means that you have, you play through a game strategically. You're looking to build advantage. You are not playing the same game state over and over and over. And you can run into situations where you revert back to an early game position in Yomi, which doesn't, I think, happen as much in something like a deck builder. Right? If you misplay or overcommit in Yomi, now you have a small hand, and it might not be developed. You overextended. Maybe you played all your good cards in that combo, and now you're stuck on a bad hand, you're stuck on a small hand, and you need to play the early game strategy of developing a hand, developing threats, against an opponent who is maybe down on health, but still has developed hands. So they're in the mid game, you're in the early game now. Can they capitalize on that? So you've got an interesting ebb and flow that can happen depending on different decisions that people make. So very exciting that way. And it's always, the second part is just that it's always exciting. There's the structure and design of the game is such that every turn, every play, you are wagering something, and you are going to lose something if it goes badly for you. And you're going to gain something important if it goes well for you. That the fact that you and your opponent flip cards at the same time, that you have an ability to gain information about an opponent's hand based on what they reveal, based on what's in their discard. All of that is great. It's so great. It's so fun to engage with. It makes it so exciting to play, and you can get incredible results where something completely unexpected happens. It allows for those moments of like high variability in expected outcome. Put it in the most the driest way possible, but completely unexpected. Like, I didn't know you had that. Like, how have you had that? Like, did you have that from the beginning, that card? Like, when did you get 3 aces? Like, that sort of stuff it makes it really fun to watch. It makes it really fun to spectate. And so that is, in a nutshell, like, if you were ever in doubt why I love this game, that is it. Those two elements absolutely make this game for me. And it's why I'm going to continue to be making Yomi videos for a very, very long time to come. So a lot has actually happened in the scene in the last year. So thinking of the last time I made a video when I got 100 subs, I think it was about a year ago, something in that range. And a lot has actually changed in the online scene. We've had a lot of new players join, and I've got to say, I mean, it's been a couple of months since kind of some of the newer players have established themselves as you know, having learned the game and being able to play the game, and it's been really incredible. The quality of play, I think, in the online scene has just been consistently getting better. The worst Yomi player, if you took the worst player who played Yomi a year ago and you pitted them against the worst player that's playing Yomi today, I think the player that's the worst player today absolutely bodies the bad player from a year. It's really been impressive to watch, and it means that, to me, like, purely from a selfish point of view, when I'm casting something, even if I have no idea who the players are, I'm excited to see what happens, because I know that I'm in for a good match. Basically, I'm almost guaranteed to see a good match, no matter who I tune in to watch. Whether it's somebody who's been established for a really long time, or somebody who's been playing for 2-3 months. That's really awesome, and I hope that, I mean, obviously I hope that the scene and the community keeps growing, that more people join, that we see more events, more varied events, more often. I already have too much Yomi, like, there's already too much Yomi going on for me to cast even a small percentage of it. I hope that continues to be the case. The more matches that are going on, the more variety of players, the more other people will be able to produce content, right? And that's exciting for me too, because, hey, I like to watch Yomi videos. So I don't want to just have to make them all. So I'm excited from that perspective. We have had a lot of people leave. With any kind of competitive game, you're going to have people leaving all the time. But it's been, fairly recently, and over the last year, we've lost a lot of established players. Raziek has basically stopped playing competitive Yomi. That was a while ago, but he was, I mean, and probably still is, considered one of the greatest players to play the game. I definitely think of him that way. Incredible tournament results. There have been a lot of other players. I think Riker and Migo Hunter are people that I've cast before on the channel, that even if you're not familiar with them from the scene, you probably know the names from having watched some of the videos. Both of those players have essentially left, may pop in for a game or two, but are not going to be as present in the scene anymore. I mean, to a large extent, a lot of the DRB crew actually have reduced the amount of game that they play for a variety of different reasons, and that's kind of sad for me to see. Obviously, it's very cool to see really established players play, because you're going to see a lot of tech. Even if I don't understand it at the time, maybe the more astute of you will catch some stuff that I completely miscast, and employ it in your own game gameplay if you do play the game at all, or you just keep an eye out for that and go like, hey, all right, yeah, that's pretty sweet. I didn't think of that setup before. So really cool to see a bunch of new people join. Very sad anytime anybody leaves the scene, because it means just less people playing. And a lot of these people I really enjoyed watching play. Really enjoyed casting in games. Some of them had excellent shit posting on the forums, which I'm always down for. So to you will be missed. To those who are joining us, welcome. I hope you stick around for a very, very long time, and I hope you have a fantastic time. Speaking of the forums, actually, this is officially the last day that FantasyStrike.com will be a generic forum for the Serling Games company and games. The FantasyStrike.com is eventually going to become the website for the actual factual fighting game, Fantasy Strike fighting game, that Serlin and his company are helping, which is currently available on Patreon if you want to check that out. All of the other games, so like the Yomi forums, the Codex forums, all the other game forums, those have all migrated to a new location. The transition was pretty rough, I would say, not without its controversy. I'm not going to get too much into it. What I do want to say is that there were several notable members of the community that were essentially banned from the old forums, and also will not be are continue to be banned in the new forums. I don't agree with the bans personally. I basically the decision was made from essentially from David Serlin's point of view to say, like, okay, I want to basically shut down these forums and start over. Not going to get into whether that's a good or bad decision. You can kind of see it from both perspectives. I don't think it was handled particularly well. I'm actually kind of hopeful that I think it may be a good thing in the long run that Serlin Games has its forums, and that any competitive community, especially around Yomi, that's the one I'm specifically invested in, and the one that was kind of thrown into disarray by this move. I hope that community organizes under a separate forum. It's already happened to a certain extent. I'll start linking to that place as well. And there's a Discord for kind of chatting and stuff like that. So there's a couple of different places living. I do hope eventually that it finds kind of a forum home. I think that while the Discord is great for keeping the community of people that met and kind of found each other on old Fantasy Strike forums together, I think having a face for that community that is easier to access than a Discord server is, that is easy on the level of, oh, here's a website address you go to, and you make an account, and you can read the forums, and it's organized, and posts, etc., etc. That you can look for tournaments there, you can look for matchup advice, you can find a community as well, but there's also resources. No Discord server is going to have I'm new to Discord, but I think it's an awkward format for new player resources, and that sort of thing, and that's important, right? The more accessible a game is to new players, more accessible a format of the information is presented, the more accessible a community is, and welcoming a community is, the better that's going to be for the long-term health of the game. So I do hope that after this transition actually happens, and it will happen at the end of this day, that activity actually picks up in the community forum, essentially. Just like, I would find it weird and kind of uncomfortable for a I don't know, like Evo. I don't know. I don't know what this looks like, but essentially, like, if the Street Fighter community was organized around the Capcom forums, I would find that weird. And I think that while it might make sense initially, I would hope, for longevity reasons, for for reasons of thinking of the product created by a company separately from, a tournament scene. Those things aren't inextricably linked. Good Lord, it's hard to speak. Is actually probably a good thing, because it means that regardless of the fate of the company, or whatever decisions happen for marketing reasons, or any economic decisions that are made, the game and the community and the scene, which are separate things from the company itself and the product, continue to live and thrive. So that's my hope, and I think that there's a good chance of that happening. Last year's stuff. I guess I've also gone through a bit of a character crisis. Some of you have watched the most recent videos that I have played. Know that I was pretty down on Rook for a very long time, and honestly, I'm still in the middle of that. I'm trying out some different characters. I'm not having tremendous success with them immediately, which is actually a good thing. Makes me feel a little bit better about the state of the game. That it's not as dire as I make it seem in my darkest moments. That Rook is garbage. That I'm going to slowly walk back that statement. I'm still not going to play him for a while. I want to try to see, try some other characters, see how those games feel. There's a ton of the cast that I've played maybe like 10 games maximum with, which is a shame, because whenever I play them in any kind of the random format tournaments, I love that stuff. Like, maybe I'll never play any other member of the cast competitively, but I should at least invest some amount of time into seeing whether that's the case. There's another character I really enjoy. So for those of you who have been watching my games in particular and have been getting bored with the amount of Rook that you're seeing, I hope that you will enjoy kind of the different variety of characters that I'm going to be trying out. And hopefully, from a content perspective, it'll be interesting for me to go through that learning process on camera. Whereas with Rook, I did most of that, getting used to the character, learning the matchups stuff, back before I was making videos. Or at least back before I was making first-person perspective videos. So I wasn't talking through those decisions in real time. So hopefully that'll be interesting content, spin it from a content perspective, for people to watch. Just in general of what I'm planning to do in the future, obviously more Yomi, that's never going to go away. Tournament casts, yes, absolutely. I have a ton of my own games in the backlog just because work has been particularly crazy in recent kind of weeks. That has settled down, and I'm hoping over the next month or two, and especially in December, definitely by December, when I will be taking a fairly sizable vacation from work, I will guaranteed by the end of this year have a ton of my own content up that I just have not recorded my commentary for. But tournament matches, those are easy for me to bang out. Only going to take an hour and short amount of editing, and then I can put those videos up. So stay tuned for that, for sure. I'm also really, really excited for... Oh, actually, one more note about Yomi. So I had previously had a bunch of plans about making a whole series of Rook videos based on kind of his matchups, and like spend a little bit more time on production quality and producing actual content rather than, right now you're looking at my face, my room in the background, and my desktop, because I tried to think of something cool that I could put on while I was rambling to keep those of you entertained, but I couldn't think of anything. So, welcome to the Citadel in Mass Effect. More tutorial stuff. I really like doing the tutorial stuff. It depends a little bit on me coming up with something that I think would be useful. Like the Getting Good at Yomi series, I think is pretty much done. I can't think honestly of any other advice I could give or anything that I feel qualified to give advice on. So if ever you are watching a video and have a question, or think that there's something that you're not getting about the game and you think that would merit a video, let me know. Either post a comment on one of my videos or send me a tweet at Mystic Juicer on Twitter. But until that happens, they're probably not going to happen. Obviously, based on Character Crisis issues, I'm not really feeling investing the amount of time it takes to put together that kind of content, in at least for Rook, at the moment. I am just not feeling it. And it takes an immense amount of time for me to put that stuff together and make it look even as bad as it currently does. So that's why I'm not really planning any of that kind of content at the moment. But that all said, have you guys heard of Codex? Codex is basically the latest game that Sterling Games put out. I am hugely excited about that game, and I feel that a Getting Good at Codex series would be immensely useful for people, because if you think that the learning curve on Yomi is rough, I feel like it's at least twice as rough for Codex. Playing the game is very simple. Like, basic actions in the game, like, you can participate in the game very quickly. But getting good at the game felt very, like, basically I decided to make those kinds of series for games that I'm really excited about and for games that I have found incredibly difficult to understand and learn. And Codex definitely fits both of those categories. So look forward to that. I'm kind of waiting on the online implementation to come through. So this thing is going to show up on Tabletopia. It's not going to have a kind of rules enforced app program the way that Yomi currently does, just because all resources for the company, Sterling Games, is currently going towards the fighting game. But all that said, it is going to show up on Tabletopia, which is kind of like it's like Tabletop Simulator. It's a online Steam accessible service. As far as I can tell, it is going to be a subscription type service. I think it's like $5 a month or something like that. I think is reasonable, especially to get access to this game in a way that I'm going to be able to play it outside of my local community, which is very small and is going to get together not very, very often. So for me, it's quite a good value proposition. Maybe you think differently. Maybe you'll think differently when I start showing some of this stuff off. But as I said, that's coming in the future because currently it is not fully available. So once it comes out, it will be much easier for me to record games in that mode and record content in that mode. So look forward to that. I'm super excited about it. I may put something together ahead of time just to kind of, if you're not familiar with Codex already, I know there's a ton of different resources out for the game, but I want to put together like a basic intro that'll give you a sense of how it plays, and also very tentative steps towards like episodes 1 or 2 of a series that is planned to be Getting Good at Codex. So just like Getting Good at Yomi, it's going to be something that it's thoughts I'm having as I'm having them and have had time to reflect on them. So basically, as soon as I get slightly less crappy, I try to dig into how that happened and put that into a video for other people to enjoy. And that's basically it in terms of what's coming for the channel. I'm very excited for what the next year is going to bring. Yeah, maybe someday more streaming. Thinking of upgrading my internet and my my computer situation in the next little while, but I've got a mortgage to start thinking about soon. So we'll see. We'll see what the timeline is on some of that stuff. I am going to finish off the video because I've already rambled on for quite a long time. Thank you for sticking with me. I hope you're excited about some of the stuff that is upcoming. But I did put out a call for questions way back when it looked like 200 subscribers was in view. I got a few of them, all from the same person. So thank you, RadXT1. Shoutouts to you. The hearts. Give out the hearts to RadXT1 for giving me some stuff to think about and mull over and share with you guys my answers. So RadXT1 asks, over the past 2 years, you've averaged 11.33 posts per day at fantasystrike.com. Did you know this, and is this a little bit excessive? I did not know that. I think more than 10 posts per day over 2 years is pretty good. I'm proud of that. Hopefully, now that it's going to be spread over 2 forums, I don't think I'm ever going to match that. That might be a high score for a really long time. But yeah, most of that is shitposting, Is that a little excessive? No, I don't think so. I think it's perfectly reasonable to get completely ridiculous about the stuff you love. I mean, clearly, I made a YouTube channel about this game based solely on the fact that it completely has dominated my social gaming for 2 years now. And I'm still as excited to play it as I was when I started out. Maybe more excited now. Like, it's definitely in real life. If somebody walks up to me and goes, "Hey, I just got into this game. It's called Yomi. Would you want to play right now?" And I was at lunch or something. 100%. That is happening. That is absolutely happening right then and there. Yeah, be passionate about stuff. Pretty great. I recently had just thinking about passion and like being a dork. I like so much of my social interaction that I do and like the friendships that I form is like linked to either the media that I get into or the games that I play, because that's the kind of stuff that I find interesting to talk about, right? Like that's the stuff I'm into. I'm into games. I'm into getting good at games. I'm into thinking about why games work or don't work for me, what I like about that kind of stuff, different shows like that. And I just recently I listened to the Penny Arcade DLC podcast, which is just them, as they're coming up with the idea for a Penny Arcade strip, Gabe and Tycho, essentially, Jerry Holkins and Mike Krahulik, talking about stuff as they come up with that stuff. And on the most recent episode of that, I was reminded that like Tycho mentioned Yomi and was starting to, like, I could hear him try to sell Yomi to Gabe, and I tweeted at him. I was just really excited to hear that same level of interest about this thing that I am interested in. And we tweeted back and forth for just like 1 or 2 things. Like, he's obviously a very busy guy. He's got a ton more people coming at him on social media and stuff like that than I do. But we still went back and forth for a little while. Like, I asked him what his favorite character was. We chatted about that stuff. It was really neat. It's, fundamentally any dork you meet anywhere, making videos, tweeting, posting on forums is that person, right? They're there because they love it for some reason. Something about it that they love. It's just really cool to see that come out in people. Yeah, that's why I love it. So yeah, 11 posts. Maybe I should improve that. Maybe I should make a dedicated effort to be better about that. Push that high score always. Favorite tournament to play in, and what is my favorite tournament to follow? Play in, definitely the random tournaments. Random tournaments? I don't know. Actually, no, that's a really tough question. Right now, I'm digging any excuse to just hit the random button and play whatever I get. I'm a fan of any tournament that has kind of a non-standard format that pushes people out of kind of the consensus top tier in a lot of ways. Just because, like, there's a lot of characters that are just easier to play than others, so they're going to show up more often, and some of them are quite strong, so you're going to see a lot of them. This is your Troc, your DeGray, your Zane. And there's a ton of characters that are really, really cool. You just don't see as often as a result of kind of those safer picks. So, definitely in terms of what I follow, I love casting stuff where I don't see a matchup I've seen as often as I have. I mean, that's right. That's the basic selling point of variety, right? Is seeing novel stuff. It's the whole reason I put together the 19XX tournament, and I'm really excited to iterate on that. I want to do that more. Definitely want to keep running that format of tournament into the future. Give it a break for a little while. I think IYL 5 is probably going to be starting up in the next little while, or at least signups will get going in the next little while. So I'm not planning to immediately jump into that again, but I will definitely be bringing that back at least once a year. At least once a year, because I really like it. Favorite tournament to play in? As I think about it, though, there are two kinds of tournaments I don't really like. That's single elim. Not a huge fan of that. Just because it means I generally get to play 1 or 2 games of Yomi. 1 or 2 sets of Yomi. I like double elimination a lot. I'm not a huge fan of Swiss. At least full Swiss tournaments. I'm okay with having like a Swiss or round robin as the initial, like to narrow things down to a realistic, like top 16 or top 8 or whatever. But I can't get excited about a format where you don't know what is the grand finals, essentially, which is what Swiss does. I don't like that. But generally, other than that, yeah, I like the Dietz format tournaments, which is just like interesting or weird or have like character restrictions in a weird way. Or like all that stuff I really, really dig. Even if I'm bad and post really shitty results in those kinds of tournaments because I know basically 4 characters, or maybe not even, I still really like playing in them. What kind of guide would I like to see someone in the community make? I actually don't have a really good answer for that. I feel like actually the Yomi community is really good about the character guides that we've produced, which is why I spent most of Saturday, like a good chunk of Friday and Saturday, porting them over from the old forms to the new ones. Actually, one guide that I would really like to see someone in the community make is, based on the stuff that I moved, a version 2 grave guide, because currently we're still dealing with version 1. And I think enough has changed. I mean, not a significant amount has changed, but enough has changed about the character that I'd like to see somebody tackle that in a big way, and actually refresh that content. Not the least of which because I am exploring playing Grave in tournaments, so it'd be useful to me. So, just on a personally. On a purely selfish note, I would like to see that guide so I could read it and become a better Grave player. What's my advice on squeaky shoes? Don't care about squeaky shoes. No one. It bothers you more than it bothers anybody else. And if it bothers anybody else more than it bothers you, you can safely disregard that person. That person has way too few problems in their life if squeaky shoes warrants any kind of response. And finally, what are the worst possible opening words of a presidential inaugural address? In other words, when are we playing Quiplash again? Yeah, I know I've said this a couple of times now, but I definitely want to do another Quiplash stream. Obviously, this weekend isn't great, and next weekend isn't particularly good either, but in the next little while, that would be pretty good. And as for my answer, I think if Trump wins the US elections, we might find out what the definitive worst opening words of a presidential inaugural address are. Boom! Got political. What's up? We're a political channel now. Forget Yomi. We're talking about, latest gaffes, blunders on the campaign trail. No, Jesus Christ. With that, I'm out. It's over. We killed the stream. Shut it down. Thanks everybody for watching. Thank you again for subscribing, for participating in any way on this channel. Huge hearts out to all of you. And yeah, let's see what the next year brings. Until next time, enjoy yourself some Yomi.